we're back for another episode of Bad Ideas Podcast with Julian Dailly, all the way from the UK. How's it going?
Good, great. Glad to be here. Very excited about the idea.
Yeah, awesome to have you here. So, at present, you're CEO of Pitch Power AI. Definitely would love you to give that a plug because I think it's wild and I'll be a customer. But before the episode, we were talking about your background and the number of companies you've been a part of and founded and sold. If you could give us kind of a quick rundown of your past. You're someone who's got a history of finding good ideas. So I think that makes it extra relevant for this talk.
Well, thanks. I've been a professional, so to speak, for 25 years. And I started out with no clue what to do. I was part of that kind of cohort of people that didn't pay for education, so didn't have to think about much, and came out of it with a sort of philosophy, linguistics degree, and like no clue, apart from really big ideas that were totally useless. So first thing I did was become an accountant.
Great idea.
It's probably because my dad was a Marxist, and I thought, what can I do to really rebel? So I'll become an accountant. So that gave me a kind of an insight into like how to put businesses together and like how they run and what investors look for and that sort of thing. And then I started working at a big supermarket, and then just got bored with the kind of big corporate thing. Went to the consultancy side, worked at Interbrand, which is like a sort of branding agency, and got involved with very abstract ideas, really, which sort of combined with a huge amount of business class travel, gave me a really good kind of view on the world. Well, I say a really good one, a particular one. And then worked for a charity for a bit, which was great to kind of give something back, but also kind of work with not very much. And then I kind of put everything together and started my first sort of business, which was just me, a laptop, going into places, being smart. It was called insert the business case, and so it was a bit like marketing plus accountancy plus me helping you plus my laptop. And 18 months later, someone bought that business off me because I had a client that was doing really well and buying loads of stuff, and rolled it into sort of being the founding team of a very small 5-person market research business, which then over the next 5 years grew and grew and grew to about 600 people. Moved out of that, and then with all my winnings, started loads of bonfires in different places. And one of them was a talent marketplace for market researchers. That didn't work, and had to pivot that one and do the work ourselves. And then latterly have kind of got on the AI bandwagon, and have now started Pitch Power, which is using AI to write proposals. So I've been in consulting years and years and years. It was always a big pain point. Everyone hates proposals. Like at best, people win like 1 in 2. Most people would win 1 in 3. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. It's all wasted. And so Pitch Power helps people not just write pitches, proposals, but also it's got some crazy stuff inside it where you can put in like someone's URL and it will tell you why they want to work with you. And then you can turn that into a proposal as well, or outreach stuff, and you can build a territory, and you can like build your account plans, and you can even work out who would buy my stuff anyway. So that's like 10 weeks old. I think we just passed 2,500 users.
Wow.
And so it's all exciting stuff. Yeah.
It's the real deal. That's the fun in this. We get to look at a really, really bad idea with someone who's actually pursuing ideas in the real world and has some success at it. So thanks for the background. Do you feel warmed up for this awful idea?
I've had so many awful ideas myself. that it's going to be a bit probably like I'm probably going to go, oh, did I have this one? No, I'm always ready to start with a bad idea. Yes, it's a great place to start.
So I have an assistant that finds these for me, and I was told that this one is from Reddit. So this is somebody's actual business idea. So let's see what we got.
Yeah.
So the bad idea is soup delivered to people's houses via pipes.
Pipes.
Yes.
Okay.
Pipe soup into your home.
Soup. Pipes. Yeah.
I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is someone's trying to create like MRR off of food.
Yeah.
And they're using pipes to do it, but barrier to entry is pretty high. You need hardware to make it work.
I mean, it's interesting that someone actually came up with it. I mean, there's some intention behind that. Maybe there's a kind of an experience with something coming down a pipe that they thought that would be soup. Soup is not a universal, is it either? I mean, not everyone likes soup. In fact, I think it's probably less fashionable than it used to be. In fact, I mean, soup's got a kind of a peasant background maybe to it.
Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. I love a good soup, Italian wedding soup, chicken noodle. I'll snack all day. But I mean, piping, to your point, the demand isn't constant, right? When you think about the things piped into your house is water. And that's about it, right? Water and natural gas, both things that you kind of need to survive.
Yeah.
Anything else piped into your house?
And also, like the state of the soup, like when it's been sat there for a bit, free flowing soup, maybe, like high usage, high velocity soup, that would be probably just about acceptable. But turning the tap on after you've been on holiday, and like just taking the first cupful. I mean, it's a bit like beer. I mean, that beer does come down long pipes. But again, it's been sitting there for a long time, and I guess it's almost maybe like a government thing as well. It's
government soup, so everybody has food. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, my dad used to live in Moscow, and they had pipes of heat, which is obviously more useful than soup. But the pipe would like run kind of up a building, through all the apartments, out the other side, into the next building, to the next building, and like that was a pipe of heat. And it was going back to the power station or wherever. But that kind of infrastructure had to be owned by the government, I think. So maybe the government could there's a lot of house building going on, and maybe as a planned thing, you could pre-plumb the soup.
here's your water, here's your plumbing, here's your soup.
But then like so many people nowadays as well have got like diets that just didn't exist 10 years ago. So that would be a problem, because beyond just not liking that soup, they might like that soup, but they've got like a nut allergy or something. Now they can't, because it may or may not have nuts in it.
But they're paying for the soup. But putting on your marketing hat, the barrier to entry is what I keep butting my head against. You have to physically install the soup for it to be consumed at all. So the cost to acquire a customer is pretty significant. I think if the government is your partner in this and they're paying for everything, it's not a big deal. It's one customer to many. But how do you even think about demand? How do you find people who want soup so badly they want a tap of it in their home? Is that even a doable thing?
Well, but that's the question, isn't it? Like, would anyone choose this? But that doesn't mean there isn't a customer. There could be a customer who decides on behalf of everyone else. So, like it could be, available for free, because like the council's decided to do this. And so then actually you're just going to have to sell it to the council, who are then going to buy it off you and give it away for free.
So that's an interesting idea. I mean, even if just the access is free, assuming someone could figure out how to preserve the soup so it doesn't go bad when you're away. But if every house has access to a food supply in the event of an emergency, there is some value there. Again, assuming you can make sure it doesn't expire.
Well, yeah, I mean the idea of like that, the last mile bit, I think, is the most problematic. It's like when you said delivering soup to people's houses, that last mile bit is like almost where the problems really begin, because that's about coming on someone's property with a pipe full of soup, as opposed to saying there's like a stand pipe or like a soup pipe, which then is more like a sort of civic thing. Like if you said soup delivered to people's streets, then maybe you could say, well, okay, I'm sure actually there are some streets where people would go and get some soup.
That's actually kind of a good idea. It's like a dispenser.
Because that, that'd be like other things where there is like water dispensers or ice.
You said beer. You said beer earlier.
Yeah.
And that's where, for pivoting to the positive, that's where my mind goes. You distribute a product that people do want every day. I mean,
that's
people have taps in their home. Imagine if they had a pipeline of beer. There's a market there.
Yeah, I think if you're going to put beer down a pipe, that's a different thing, isn't it? Altogether. But still, you've got the plumbing issue. If you could use another pipe, or maybe just exchange the water. Like say, can you live without water? Because in medieval times, beer was water. Because it was, well, I mean, it was the only thing that was like sterilized, because the water certainly wasn't. So
they drank beer.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't beer as we know it, but it was, fermented something or other. So big kind of retro, for people that want to go not just back but way back, and they could have like. Not hot and cold, but just like beer or nothing.
That's kind of amusing.
Yeah.
I'm imagining the water pipe changes to beer on a switch, and I mean, just guess would have unpleasant showers from time to time.
You have to work for every other use case for water as well.
Yeah. But the tenets of a business is there. It's a big market. There's almost ubiquitous demand. People would use it. I think the challenge with soup is that the market isn't big, and the market that exists there isn't constant. They're not having it every day. So the value of having it piped into their home is kind of lost, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it might be the case that it's just the pipe that's the issue. Like soup on demand. Soup kitchens, they're kind of well known for distributing soup. But again, that's like that's sort of a niche demographic. It's not aspirational in that sense,
Yeah.
But maybe that's an upside, right? Like to reimagine the soup kitchen as some sort of like super premium experience.
Yeah.
Where it is brought to your house, but maybe like, in a limousine or something.
Yeah. Here's your soup. I wonder if that's where the idea came from, because I feel like everything is delivered faster and faster and faster. I mean, you see it on the professional services side, but Amazon is fighting tooth and nail to move product closer to you so it can deliver even faster. And I think that's setting the expectation that everything can come that fast.
Yeah.
But food, especially food that needs to be prepared over a period of time, like soup, it doesn't have an instant delivery vehicle yet. I mean, Uber, that's like as close as you get. So I think they're trying to find the next iteration of that. Um,
Yeah, I mean, pipes are kind of the opposite, aren't they, of that kind of
mm,
super flexible, on-demand, gig working economy type of
it's
thing,
perpetual. Yeah.
where you just have a massive metal pipe that's permanently installed.
Mm,
If the need is I want soup when I want soup,
mm,
then bringing that access to hot soup nearer and nearer in time and space, that could be a real need state. Maybe not for everyone, but
mm.
instant soup that was somehow better than just the soup you could make yourself or soup in a can, for example.
Mm.
Then maybe there's a kind of, like a blender. Like people could make their own soup in a blender, but the blender itself is also a cooker.
Yeah, it's the product. I mean, you're solving the instantaneous need
Mm.
um, without any major barrier to entry. Yeah, I think if we pivot to consulting, your market research brain and founder brain a little bit, um, this also reminds me of companies that get married to the wrong distribution vehicle for their
Mm.
product or service. You seen that before?
So you mean like they're trying to go to market with the wrong mechanism?
Oh yeah, or they keep trying to make something work that isn't a fit for their product or service. I mean,
Yeah,
the analogy here is you don't deliver soup through a pipe, like it's the
yeah,
wrong vehicle. But businesses, I think, do that sometimes too. Like, I mean, I've seen SaaS companies that are really service businesses. Where you're just
oh
talking about when you founded, and like it really should be high touch and it should be human delivered, but they're trying to force people through a SaaS checkout, which doesn't make sense.
yeah,
Examples you can think of companies kind of in the wrong lane trying to make that successful? A good product, but just delivered the wrong way.
yeah, yeah. I think that I think it's interesting that you say about SaaS because there is there's a lot of SaaS businesses which are eating into service businesses,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't really want to. It's like it's. I went to a trade fair once, and I asked them if I had some trouble with this product, like would I get some help? And they said, yeah, yeah, fine, yeah, sure. And then I said, well, if I couldn't actually use it, would somebody be able to help me use it? Yeah, yeah, no problem at all. And I asked this question to all the SaaS vendors, and in the end, it was like you just basically I could just get a subscription of a load of people for free on top. Um, and I think that's because a lot of them have, product businesses work the other way around from service businesses in a way, in that they raise a lot of money to build a technology product, and they say it's going to be self-service, and they find a bunch of early adopters who are highly motivated, and they do it themselves, and they go, this is amazing, our business is going to be absolutely amazing, and like we can meet all these growth targets. And then they realize that once you get beyond that, like 1% of the market that's willing to do that,
Nobody else will.
you then got to start layering in all these people, because the next people are like, oh, I can't be bothered, or like I've got to read this or do that, or I don't want to do it. That's okay, fine. But we've raised all this money. We've got to do it. We've got to meet that sales target. So like, I'll just get a sales team and call them customer success managers, because that's like a success. No, they're not service people. No, don't say service. And then eventually, it's like a massive agency that used to have a product.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, in the end, these businesses are just slightly more efficient versions of agencies. So actually, they are eating up agencies, even if they're failing in their own mission, because agencies are making it up all the time, every time. And so they don't have a product, and so they're like really like heavy, inefficient businesses, and so they too need to find a different route in. You know, my developer said to me, he was not familiar with agencies or with proposals, and I was describing to him the scenario of agencies, how they get new clients and they have to write a proposal, and then someone reads it and then they say yes like 1 in every 3 times. And he said, so you can't just go to the agency and like sign up?
Nope.
And I said no, and he was like, that's crazy, like, why can't you just sign up? And I said, well, it doesn't work like that. And then I thought, well, why doesn't it work like that? It should work like that, because that's actually like a really obvious way for it to work, So I think the whole question of distribution and how easy can people become a customer without making a massive decision or being asked to go somewhere or being asked to do too much. That's really at the center of this whole like SaaS versus services thing. And both sides are struggling with it, and probably somewhere in the middle is, sort of do it with you kind of business, which will, be scalable, which I guess is what a lot of SaaS businesses really are.
It's funny. I don't. Maybe you've seen some of this, but I haven't seen. I mean, to your point, I've seen a lot of SaaS companies using a product as the hook, and then basically they're a service business on the back end of the product. I've seen that a bunch. But I haven't seen service businesses using a product as a hook so much yet. There are a couple of agencies that sell analytics tools.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually another business that I started that was more of, let's say, like a professional vacation, in the sense that it wasn't really professional. It was called Create Agency Products, and the idea of that was to help agencies productize themselves, and it was just really too much for people to get their head around. But it's something which agencies talk about a lot, which is like, how can we box up our stuff and make it easier to buy and easier to do? But when they come to the task of sort of taking something which is always entirely bespoke and trying to give it edges and definition and 6 of these and 4, really difficult. And yet, though, there are lots of them. So you can think of a product as being, having many dimensions. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean iPhone. It can be anything. When I worked at Interbrand, like, we arguably had like one of the best agency products ever, which was brand valuation. It's like a defined thing. You get a value for your brand. There's a set methodology. There's like 2,000 case studies. There's a league table for it. You can buy one, you can buy 2, you can do it again and it'll be the same, and you can compare it to the last one. That productization of essentially a consulting intervention was hugely successful. And there are quite a few agencies, professional service firms, which have things that look like products. And that helps them to, put scale into their business. If they're buyable remotely, people can find out about them. People can kind of like go with buying intent for that product, ask for it, we can deliver it, we know what we're doing. And it takes a lot of the grind out of an agency. But in general, my learning was that it was more of an identity question. So people identified with the struggle of bespoke, and productization was somehow, like taking away from that kind of like idea that everything's unique, everything's done differently, everything's customized, every client's unique, even if it's like a cross that we have to bear. If we started to like box it up and like standardize things, then we'd stop being who we are. And that was actually probably the main reason why create agency products just didn't really work, along with the name, which in retrospect was a bit of a red rag. But on the flip side, for products, it's very easy for them to serviceify because it's very intuitive and obvious as to what the problem is and what they need to do, which is we're just going to put some people on this. And so that's why they're advancing into that agency territory much faster than agencies are advancing into the middle ground. Because for SaaS businesses to add service is so much easier than it is for agencies to productize, which is fascinating. And I think it leads to an outcome which is kind of like retail in a way, which is that the e-commerce and the internet will be bigger than bricks and mortar retail. And agencies will either be like big superstores or they'll be like premium boutiques. And most people will buy most things from something like Amazon.
Superstore, yeah. I think that brings us back to our bad soup delivery idea. As things move increasingly online, there's this whole category of, this is a perfect analogy to the servicing, agency servicing model you were just talking about. Soups are bespoke, just like agency service packages. So you can't deliver a standardized product in an automatic way to everybody. You can make the soup, but it has to be remade in an episodic way, and that needs to somehow be controlled. And no one's figured out a smooth, automatic, kind of perpetual way to deliver that yet. Amazon gets close because because Amazon already has the products near your house. They're predicting what you're going to buy, so it's not like they shipped it; it was already near you. But no one's, products like food, the best you have is still humans. Other humans that take it from A and bring it to B. So maybe that's a frontier. Maybe that's what this bad idea reveals, that there's a new way of instantaneous delivery that needs a distribution model that's even more efficient that we haven't solved for yet.
Pipes sound like subscription. Effectively, which is a kind of constant availability, or like a pre-booked availability or delivery. So I think to make it a good idea, I would say this as a bit of a researcher, you'd have to look into some of the big questions behind it, right? As you said, there's distribution and then there's the product. How many people want soup or a thing like soup? And what can soup be an alternative for? Because there might be things that people go, I didn't realize soup's an alternative for like coffee. Drink a lot of coffee. And maybe soup can be reimagined, because I think anything with like a defined idea that's a bad one can transform, because what you're dealing with is quite an efficient start point, which is if some people really like soup and most people really hate soup, but they hate it for the same reason, then actually that's a good starting point, which is you just tackle that reason. I'm an investor in a business called Shandy Shack. And Shandy Shack is basically a craft shandy. Shandy, in case the listeners don't know, is a sort of mixture of basically lemonade and beer. And it can have nowadays all sorts of variants, fruit flavors and elderflower. But it's basically like a bit maligned. It's one of those drinks that people would rather not drink because it's neither this nor that, and it's associated with like not being able to drive maybe, or kind of being watered down or a bit effete somehow. But that's okay because that's what everyone thinks. And so repositioning Shandy, at least you know where your start point is. And what they've done with it is they've said, actually, it's like 2.8% alcohol. So it's in this middle ground between no alcohol and like normal amounts of alcohol in basically a beer product. And it's absolutely storming it with the younger generations who don't kind of aspire to get drunk, but they want, something with moderation in it. And so they've heard of Shandy, and they've kind of got this like fairly homogenous idea about it, which is now being transformed into a sort of moderate leisure drink for younger people. And it's going really well. So, soup could be a similar thing, which is it's not about the 10% of people that absolutely love soup. It's the common reason amongst the majority. And then like repositioning soup as, soup for the 21st century might then be, soup now, it could be called or something. And so that could be the product, new soup. And then the distribution, it's probably not going to be pipes, but the idea of, on demand or subscription could have any number of ways to manifest, I suppose. I mean, it could be that you get, soup kit, for example. Mm-hmm. So every week you get a new soup.
Subscription soup. It's piping, but it's just financial
it's
piping.
It's piping hot. Or, it could be one of those Italian ones that's not hot. Gazpacho, I think that's not hot. And it could be delivered, and all you need to do is, press 3 buttons, and
there
you've got the soup. Or it could be one of those, it could be one of those things where every Amazon delivery comes with a packet of soup.
There you go, a channel sale with Amazon.
If you opt in,
Yeah, I'm sure by the time this publishes, we'll have a couple of connects at Amazon and Corp Dev watching us. I didn't even think about soup yet. Acquisition targets galore. And I think what's most amazing about this show is that you have literal examples from your own experience of you guys pivoting things. And that was kind of the mission when we started filming Bad Ideas. The ideas are ridiculous, so it's kind of fun to see. But I feel like you get Shark Tank, or you get someone ringing the bell on the stock exchange, but you don't see all the bad stuff that happens on the other side of it, and you never really get to sit in on these conversations where you're like, are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? What does the market really want? What's the right approach? How do we pivot it? And I think you've done it so many times. It's really great to see the real world stuff bleed into the show.
I think that there's too much writing off, like there's too much dismissing of things because there's like one thing wrong with it. Maybe it's a kind of a consumerism thing where, if it's not perfect, it's not good at all.
Yeah.
And actually a great start point is a bad idea, because I guess in a way, in order for you to know it's a bad idea, you must have already had a pre-thought about why it's a bad idea, which then means that you've got half an idea about what it's lacking.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting with some point of certainty. I think that creates leverage in everything else.